What's up, YouTube? This is Crispy, otherwise known as Bystander X79, and I'm coming to you with today's deck profile, Yosenjus. Alright? I've been a fan of this deck since its release in the Secret Forces Extra Booster set, that one that had all the Necros monsters in it, and the Ritual Beast. This was the third archetype that was in it. I actually love the mechanics that this archetype does, and we'll be discussing that as we go along. The deck, actually, in my opinion, has gotten better with the introduction of links into the game, and it can really build out some interesting link boards. Alright? Not only that, but now that we are in April, we're officially on banlist watch. And I've noticed that this is the time of year that we tend to see a little bit more attention being to rogue decks. So with that being said, we're going to get right into this right now. As usual, first up, going to be doing the monsters. Okay. First things first, I run 3. Listen to that a little bit. 3. Yosenju, number 1. Alright? Basically, the way the Yosenju combos work is that as soon as you normal summon one, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, normal summon another Yosenju monster right from your hand. It's one of the greatest strengths of this deck. It doesn't really rely on special summons. It's normal summoning, normal summoning, normal summoning to fill up your field. After that, you could go Xyz mode. You can go into Xyz. You can go into Lynx plays. I mean, it's actually a pretty good engine now. Cool thing about it is that after you normal summon another Yosenju monster, you could actually activate this guy's effect, which will allow you to target one monster your opponent has on the field and send it right back to the hand. Which is an awesome effect. I also run 3 copies of Yosenju, 2. Just like 1, as soon as you normal summon it, you can summon out another one. Its effect allows you to attack your opponent directly, even if they have big monsters in the field. It is the strongest Yosenju main deck monster here that I run, 1800. Thing about it is that when you attack directly with this effect, any battle damage is half, but you know what? Any battle damage is battle damage, and it's worth it. Just to get a poke. I also run 3 copies of Yosenju, 3. Now, 3 is actually pretty good, because whenever one of your Yosenju monsters does damage, you get to search your deck for another Yosenju monster. Let's see, monster. Yep, add one. Oh, you could add one Yosenju card to the hand. Excuse me. It's whenever another one of your Yosenju monsters does damage, you actually can search for a Yosenju card, which is pretty good. One more thing that I want to turn around and talk about with the Yosenjus is that after you've been normal summoning and you swing during your end phase, they all come back to your hand, which can open up some pretty interesting plays and some tech choices, depending on what you want to run. Alright, I still got some more monsters I want to turn around and show you before we get going. The first one I want to do is Yosenju Sujik, and this is basically the hand trap of the Yosenjus. Basically, whenever your Yosenju monsters are being... You control battles on opponent's monster, you can discard a card and basically bump that monster up, bump the attacking monster up by 1,000, which is pretty good. I mean, 3 has 1,500, 2 is 1,800, 1 is 1,900. There are ways to bump up the attack in this deck. He's one of them. Now, of course, I do run a little one monster in here for protection, and it happens to be one of the Yosenju pendulums, Yosenju Sinchu L. I like this card a lot. Basically, it sits in your pendulum zone, and if your Yosenju monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could pop this card instead. So this, if you see my Dynamisk deck profile, this actually acts similar to the Scale 3 effects of Dynamist. Similar effect too. Great defense. I would run the Yosenju R in this, but I really don't pendulum summon a lot with this deck. Since this deck eats up your normal summons mostly, and the other pendulum effect on R really is not worth it. Cool thing about it is that this card is normal summon, change it to defense position. Your opponent cannot target Yosenju monsters you control with card effects except for this one, which adds an extra layer of protection if you happen to have one in your hand. So you can actually have one here on the field in defense mode, one sitting in your scale, and there's other Yosenjus on your field, and your opponent's gonna be hard pressed to do anything about your cards. All right, so that's it for the monster lineup. I did mention that that the Beast Warrior monsters actually return to your hand at the end phase, which can open up some plays. If you want to be running some hand traps, one of my favorites, the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, just to shred your opponent's extra deck if you want to go that way. That is an option. Other options would be the more common ones. I don't really typically run hand traps in this deck because the deck really is a rogue deck. It's more of a for fun build, but anyway, on to the spells. I run 3 copies of Card Demise. Now, the reason why Card Demise gets 3 in this is because of the whole end phase thing with the Yosenju monsters coming back to your hand. During the end phase, you gotta discard your entire hand after you use this. However, you can actually choose when to activate the discard and then when to bring back your monsters. So you can actually have this card be Chain Link 2, while the Yosenju monsters be Chain Link 1. Return to the hand, in fact, be Chain Link 1, discard your hand, and then have all your monsters return. So it actually is a very good play. Again, this doesn't really special summon a whole lot. I mean, even if you do Link Summon during your turn and go into that, it's alright. It is what it is. That's some drawer power. I also have 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. Alright, basically, activate this card, search your deck for a Beast Warrior, and then all your Beast Warriors get pumped up, well, for level 4 a little bit, and then all your Beast Warriors get pumped up by 100 attack. So the more copies you have of this card in the field, the more attack they gain. Alright. Again, this being I do like running Monster Reborn because if you go extend into Link Summons, this guy's going to get back one of your Yosenju monsters right back onto the field. Or you can steal your opponents. I am going a bit old school with this. Mystical Space Typhoon, Pop Scales, and Back Row. Very helpful card. A bit old school, but worth it. Of course, I also run 3 copies of Pod Duality. Again, this deck uses mostly normal summons instead of special summons, so digging into your deck 3 cards to get the card you need isn't a big deal. Alright. I do run Raigeki because, let's face it, sometimes you don't feel like having to hop over your opponent's monsters with combat to you want to swing big, and this card will enable you to swing big. And last but not least, and this is something that actually has been made good by the inclusion of Link Monsters, and that's Yosenju Training Grounds, the continuous spell. Now, the awesome thing about this card is that every time a Yosenju monster is summoned, normal summon or special summon, if you put a counter on this card. Depending on how many counters you remove from the card, depends on what effects you get. You remove 1 counter, you can boost your Yosenju monsters up by 500 attack. Okay, until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. And if you remove 3 counters, you can add 1 Yosenju card from your deck or your graveyard to your hand. Now that is what actually makes this card pretty decent, because you can actually, if you Link Summon, you can be getting back your monsters back into your hand real fast. If these cards' effects seem familiar, again, I'm going to look back at my 6 Samurai deck profile. these two effects are very similar to that of Gateway of the Six. Remove the 3 counters. Yeah, get a monster from your, get a Yosenju card from your deck to your hand or from your graveyard to your hand. Awesome effect. 1 counter does the boost. With Gateway, it was 2 counters for boost and 4 counters for the search, but it was a very similar effect. I can tell you right now, this is what makes decks good, especially once it wasn't really that good or important to include when the archetype first appeared, but now it's actually getting better. Alright, on to the traps. Back row. This deck loves its back row. And because the monsters like to bounce themselves back to your hand at the field, and you have empty fields, you gotta run 3 copies of Drowning Mirror Force. Whenever your opponent's monsters attack, or declares their attack, shuffle all attack position monsters your opponent controls into the deck, which basically can, if your opponent likes to link summon a lot during the turn, this is gonna make them pay, and make them pay hard. And it's oh so satisfying to see that happen. Alright. I run my Silent Brigade, which is Judgment, skill card of course, but negates summons, spells, or traps. You gotta run your strikes. Inherit summons are things. Effects are also things. And of course, warning. Negating more summons. And for a little more mass destruction here, we just actually recently got this card back at multiples in the TCG. 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. Beautiful thing about this card, just let it sit on the field, let your opponent build the field, and as soon as they hit that last summon, flip the card, and just watch them break down and cry. Again, this is another card that's very satisfying to resolve. Well, for yourself, maybe not for your opponent. Alright, on to the extra deck. Well, the monsters are pretty much all level 4, so you're basically going to be seeing some rank 4 shenanigans going on in this. Alright. First off, Abyss Dweller. Alright, you're not going to be boosting anything with this card's effect, but you are going to at least be stopping graveyard effects, so it's not a bad card to have. Castell, the Sky Blaster Musketeer. 1 material, target 1 face-up card, and change it to the face-down defense position. You burn 2 materials, bounce a card off the field. Dark Rebellion, Ixie's Dragon. Beautiful card. Half some monster's attack. Adds whatever it cuts to its own attack, so it becomes big for 2 monsters. For two overlays. I included Lightning Shijori in this because it is a wind attribute card that actually makes use of the wind attributes. Basically, whenever it's Exceed Summon, target 1 set card your opponent controls, and return that card to the bottom of the deck. Awesome. And then once per turn, detach 1 Exceed material from this card to target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, and return that card to the top of the deck. So you summon it, bounce something to the bottom of the deck, burn materials to top deck the cards. Depending on the cards, and deck, you can actually turn around and set your opponent back per turn. So it's actually a very handy card in this. Of course, rank 4 toolbox, Gaga Cowboy, burn for damage, add extra damage to the board, keep it in defense mode. This be fun. I run a full Utopia package here. The original Utopia Ray and Utopia Lightning, basically just to get a couple extra swings in there, and just in case one swing doesn't finish the game, you could finish the game hopefully on another swing with Lightning. 41 gotta be included in there as well. Babushka stalls all the time, so you need him in there. On Tornado Dragon, pop back row. That's what it does. And of course, I actually include number F-Zero Utopic Future, primarily because you run a lot of the same rank cards. You can actually bring this guy out, and it's just insane to have in your deck. Alright, this card's original rank is treated as 1. Okay. Cannot be destroyed by battle, and other... And neither player takes battle damage from attacks involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can't control... You take control of the opponent's monster until the end of the battle phase. Awesome effect. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by a card effect, attach 1 excused material from the card instead. So, an awesome card to have in a rank 4 toolbox, or actually any rank toolbox, because you can bring them out easily and just make something that just steals your opponent's monsters whenever they battle them. Alright, now I run some links. First, this Underclock Taker. This is actually one of the better common Lick monsters they released in Extreme Force. Target 1 card this card points to, and one of your opponent's monsters, and that monster loses attack equal to the card that it points to. Helps you get over big boss monsters. Insanely handy Lick monster for two effect monsters, and it's easy enough to get multiple monsters in the field to get this guy out, so worth running. Run Deco Talker. Deco Talker is Deco Talker. 3 monsters. Anything it points to boosts its own attack, and it can use those monsters to turn around and protect itself, which is really not bad. Of course, I run a pair of rank 4s. Saruja Skulldread is in there. Again, building a field of monsters on 1 turn is not that hard with this deck, so it's easy to get Saruja out. Doing with 4 gets you all 3 of its effects, which basically allow you to boost any monsters it points to. Get an extra special summon during your turn, which you're really not going to be using with this deck that much. Draw 4 cards and stack your bottom of your deck with any 3 cards you want. The boost alone is awesome. Recycling stuff back from your graveyard with Training Ground and just going off a little bit more can help you lead into putting Borload onto the field. Just imagine a field with Borload and Saruja just pointing towards it. It's just nasty. Because Borload gets 500 extra attack. I mean, of course it can't be targeted by monster effects. Once per turn, quick effect. You can target 1 face-up monster on the field. It loses 500 attack. Opponent can't negate the activation of this effect. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, you can place that card into any zone it points to, and then take control of it. But you send it to the graveyard at the end of the turn. How can I say how good is that? I mean, like I said before, just having this with Saruja pointing to it is just a nightmare for your opponent just to turn around and just see. Because now you get extra points, an extra zone right there, and it's 500, and you can just be stealing your opponent's monsters. Give it to a zone that Saruja points to, it gets boosted. I mean, it's just a little nutty play, but it's can make things a lot worse for your opponent. Well, that will be it for the deck profile. Okay. If you like the deck, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, hit that subscribe button. Ring that notification bell like your life depends on it to become part of the notification squad whenever I throw up a new video. And I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.